Some old footage of Meghan Markle as a kid, just as annoying as ever, but the mainstream media still trying to spin her as the media darling, along with all the other pop culture news of the day. You're live with the guy every day at noon Central. I got my producer Nat over here.
Hello.
And let's get right into it. Maybe let's start with the headline news, which is Meghan Markle. And I seen this kind of popped up today in Pop Culture Crisis, so I thought I would share it just because I kind of wanted to test Meghan Markle on our thumbnail, because on our Spanish channel, it's unbelievable how many clicks we get of this girl, no matter what we say about her. I wanted to see if it was the same with the English audience.
And I have a theory that they're probably paying some sort of algorithmic something to that, so every time her name is shown, it gets shown to more people.
Yeah, it's very strange because we do all kinds of pop culture news on on our night show or our Spanish channel. We do politics. We put all kinds of people on the thumbnail. Nobody even comes close to Meghan Markle. It's very strange how the algorithm really pushes her out to an extremely big audience. So we'll see if it does it again with this channel, but let's get right into the clip here.
And then we do have stuff to say about her.
Yeah, we have actually a lot to say about her because you're quickly becoming an expert on Meghan Markle because of our other channel.
Unfortunately, because I don't love to talk about her, but she does exemplify mostly what is wrong with media and the celebrities that are put up.
Okay, well, let me get my headphones real quick. Okay. And do I have my headphones today? Yes, I do. Okay. Okay, let's do it.
It's the first time little Meghan Markle was on TV, and she was a firecracker even at age 11.
I don't think it's right for kids to grow up thinking these things, that just mom does everything.
For a social studies assignment way back in elementary school in Los Angeles, Meghan and her classmates were asked to watch some commercials and assess their messages.
Recommended by more doctors, pharmacists, and Dr. Mom.
It's always mom does this and mom does that.
In particular, a commercial for Ivory dishwashing liquid caught her attention because it used the word women.
Women are fighting greasy pots and pans.
And I said, wait a minute, how could somebody say that?
Even back then, Meghan struck everyone with her easy charm and intelligence.
Just about 1 out of every 3 commercials is going to say something that's gonna hurt somebody's feelings.
So Meghan took pen in hand and wrote a letter to Procter & Gamble.
Pause it real quick. I don't want to get demonetized or dinged. So let's talk about for a quick second. And she seemed to be a social justice warrior even back then, not wanting to hurt people's feelings. Oh no, they're saying women in a commercial. Nobody had these views back when she was a child, or they were just emerging. So the fact that she was like front and center on that, no wonder once they seen her, they grabbed her for Hollywood and really used as an indoctrination tool.
Yes. Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, let's keep going. I'll see the whole thing here.
At that penmanship.
So I was wondering if you would be able to change your commercial to people all over America.
Here's the shocker. The company actually changed the commercial to say people, not women.
The gloves are coming off. People are fighting greasy pots and pans with Ivory Clear.
What Meghan did landed her on the cable show Nick News in 1993, hosted by Linda Ellerbee.
It was absolutely clear.
And let's pause it really quick. And this is going to really show who Meghan Markle is as a person, because at such a young age, doing something like this would have had a huge impact on her and would really start her social justice journey, I would think. Same with Pedro Pascal and his family history, or if you look into Trudeau's family history, or even Emmanuel Macron. At a very young age, this is kind of who they are in the very center of their being. So even when the culture begins to shift, that's why these characters, you aren't going to see these characters shift or really change their opinions, I think, is because it's who they are at their core, and it's almost impossible for them to change.
But a lot of the times, funnily enough, it is also who their parents are. So I think a lot of this is not coming directly from her. It's coming from influences, I'll just say.
Well, especially at this age, I don't think any of these opinions come from directly from her. These are, at this age, this is parent to child kind of indoctrination. That being said, we're seeing a huge cultural shift and a political shift in Gen Alpha turning conservative and things like this. And it was just a matter of conservatives having more children over the last couple decades, which is now really having influence on Gen Alpha where their parents were conservative. So we're seeing them to start to go conservative.
But it's the same thing, I would think, like it's the same thing with these like leftist, very progressive views as I would say with a child at 11 quoting scripture and telling you to get saved by Jesus. Like that's not coming from the kid.
Well, I know this is a pop culture show, but I'm just going to bring it up really quickly. And it's like these parents that are saying my child's transgendered at 6 months old. We know because we just know. It's crazy when you see parents like that. Okay, let's continue to go.
This young woman was strong in her beliefs. It didn't matter if she was 11 years old. She believed in women. She believed in her own power, and she wasn't afraid to reach out and say, I want my power. I want my rights.
Good evening.
Many years later, Meghan spoke about the Ivory dishwashing liquid commercial.
At the age of 11, I had created my small level of impact by standing up for equality.
Back in 1993, Meghan had these words of advice for fellow kids across America.
If you see something that you don't like or offended by on television or any other place, write letters and send them to the right people, and you can really make a difference for not just yourself, but lots of other people.
Well, they were really using her at a very young age to kind of use her as a figure for other children to really, we have to stand up, fight the power, do what's right, social justice, when social justice really wasn't a thing. This is a very interesting clip overall. When I originally grabbed the clip, I only watched half of it. So the second half really said it a lot more. Also, that being said, she said she was able to make a change at a young age in that speech when she was older, but the only change she's making today is backlash. She is probably one of the most hated people online. We know because we've done quite a few videos on our Spanish language channel about her, and the amount of comments we get, it's very rarely supporters that are watching the video. It's the one video where you're getting a lot of people that just don't like Meghan Markle. And they've tried to really make her American royalty, and it's completely backfiring.
Especially because of how hypocritical it all is. And people notice that, I think more and more, also because of social media and because of their having the ability to have more conversation that is even more nuanced than just seeing things in a magazine like back in the 90s.
Well, she's also constantly plagiarizing other people that have a lot of authenticity to them. So she takes their scripts, takes their ideas, takes their children's book time after time after time. If she sees something she likes that somebody else is doing, in my opinion, it looks like she just outright tries to plagiarize it, give it to Netflix, say it's her own. Netflix had to cancel one of her projects she was doing because they realized it was completely plagiarized. Now, that being said, well, I don't know where this girl's going to head with her career because she's having the wrong rub on anybody that starts to come around her. It's like a tangential cancellation for those people as well. And her simp husband is just insane. His transition from masculine rebel in the military to what he is now is just a disgrace to masculinity in general.
I was going to say, now she's doing this whole other Netflix thing and her podcast and etc. where, I mean, here she was complaining about dish soap and about women being seen as just mothers and just etc. But now she has a whole lifestyle brand where she teaches you how to put meat on a plate and how to put cheese next to it and how to cut a flower, which is exactly what apparently she was fighting. So it's the hypocrisy of it all and the constant hypocrisy that I think helps exemplify why a lot of these narratives and ideologies like fall flat with the general public now.
Well, there's a cultural shift back to normalcy where they want less and less politics, but there was a couple of decades where it was heavy. The messaging was pushed into everything. Meghan Markle was just coming up as an actress on that point, and she didn't really have the ability to give interviews and really project herself into that social justice sphere as an adult until she married Prince Harry. But once she did that, the shift had already begun in the culture. So her making these political statements and things like this is only creating more backlash against her. Okay.
And Rafa says, so she has been annoying since childhood.
Exactly. That's exactly what I thought when I seen her, because I don't want to talk shit on children, but man, I seen her and I was like, she was annoying as a kid,
And
which
that
is
was
very
bred-
rare. It's hard for a kid to be annoying.
Well, it's very easy, but it was bred into her.
Yeah.
And also, Rafa, if you want privately via email, whatever, just let us know how everything is going. We're still thinking about you.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into the next story, and that was How to Train Your Dragon. And we kind of talked about the global box office numbers yesterday. Now we're going to talk about an article that's focused more domestically.
So, box office, How to Train Your Dragon to fly to 75 million in opening weekend from Variety. Do you want me to read?
Yeah, let's read a little bit of it.
So Hiccup and Toothless are readying to fire up the box office. Universal and DreamWorks Animation's live-action How to Train Your Dragon is poised to fly to 70 million to 80 million in its box office debut. Enthusiasm from family audiences and goodwill toward the original 2010 animated adventure could propel inaugural ticket sales even higher, according to independent tracking services and rival studios. How to Train Your Dragon looks to collect another 110 million at the international box office, where the film lands concurrently in nearly every major territory.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about this. So it is expecting about 75 million at domestic box offices. So if it's able to actually garner that 75 million, it's really relying heavily on domestic box offices. When I seen worldwide box office numbers yesterday, I was really expecting them to anticipate a smaller domestic box office and a larger international box office. That's not the case, but this movie is doing really well internationally. So I think this article may be wrong. I'm almost expecting it to garner a smaller domestic box office and a much larger international box office. It already came out in South Korea last week, and it got amazing box office numbers. If this movie does emerge in China, then I'm expecting it to do well there again. I haven't read anything if this movie is actually going to be released in China. If it's not, maybe that's why they're expecting a smaller international box office, but that's just me kind of anticipating why is the international box office much lower than the domestic on this, or at least what I would have expected. That being said, I'm saying the international box office is less than I expect. It's still more than the domestic, but it should be actually a lot more than that if the domestic is going to hit 75 million.
And I just think all studios need to move away from using their same properties over and over again and just bring someone in creative, get new scripts, get new ideas, and stop relying on stuff that worked at some point, even though this one will probably work more than, I think, for example, Snow White.
They need to get good script writers, really promote who these script writers are front facing on camera, have them do interviews, have them talk, really build script writers as the new actors. Cause I think script writing is actually, if not as important in acting, probably even more important. And for over a decade now, Hollywood has really neglected scriptwriters and scripts in general, using very formulaic and equational scripts. That's why every Marvel movie has the same story arc. It's boring to watch because you almost know the plot points. When Save the Cat first emerged, that's a script writing method. It really took Hollywood by storm, but it's like, man, it is their go-to for almost every major film now. And because they're investing $100 million, they want to play it safe.
Yeah, and it becomes like too formulaic to the point where nobody is really interested because you just know all the story beats already.
I completely agree. I would also say if you haven't read the book, Save the Cat, it is an amazing book, even though I think that formula is way overused. But if you're just trying to learn to write scripts or learn how storytelling kind of takes place, it's probably one of the best books for beginners or even people that are a little bit more advanced in script writing. That being said, we knew a few people that went to Vancouver Film School, which is a pretty big film school. But if you pay for that production program and that filmmaking program, they pretty much just teach you that book and then complement around that. The person that took that course said, man, I paid tens of thousands of dollars that I wasted my money. I could have just bought this book for $20.
Yeah. And now with AI, I mean, because my whole point was I wanted to study film, and now I'm kind of glad I didn't. And I got into the industry via working. And that's the best way to really get into it, into those kinds of industries, because you learn way more. And also you can be very self-taught and self-didact if you put your effort into it. But paying thousands and thousands of dollars to go to film school where they say they'll give you all these connections, etc. All the people I know that went to Vancouver Film School either work in something completely different, especially the ones that went for like film and production and script writing, or they never really got the opportunities they were promised other than indie films that didn't really go many places. The ones that did get that were successful was because they went into the industry almost by themselves afterwards.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I will also say this. We did work in the film industry. I worked on independent non-union movies, also worked for the union with the Teamsters union. But with non-union work, I did camera, lighting, and grip. That being said, if you're thinking about getting into the film industry, the one thing I would recommend to have, which I was very surprised a lot of people in the film industry didn't have, is a car. It's an absolute necessity because of the remote shooting locations. It becomes very much a pain. I knew a lot of people that were going to and from set that didn't have a car, that would either have to rent a car for the day, or they would have to take a taxi, and it would take almost up their entire paycheck for the day. So they were basically working for free, which, man, it's hard when you're doing a 20-hour day and you're realizing, well, I'm not making any money because it's all going into transportation. One of the most important things you can have if you're new in the film industry is a car, because so many of the filming locations are extremely, extremely remote. So that's just a word of advice coming from somebody that has worked in there, and realizing people that are just coming out of high school very often don't have a car, and they don't realize how much of a necessity it is with the film industry itself.
And that was in Vancouver. In Mexico, I have no idea how it works because I've never worked here in the film industry. But yes, for, I'm guessing, Vancouver, Toronto, Los Angeles, Georgia.
Yeah. And even the little moto cars that you rent for the hour, or you're going to bring to and from, once you leave the immediate downtown core, you have to rent that car for the day, and it becomes a lot more expensive.
In Vancouver.
In Vancouver, yeah. But that's also how it works in a lot of cities with those car sharing programs.
Yes.
Okay, let's go. And we actually used to share your little mini. We had a little mini in Vancouver. Now, if I was going to set and I was going to do camera, lighting, and grip, it wasn't so bad. But the times I was going to do security, you very often, especially if it's raining, you're sitting in your car and watching things from your car. And man, that mini was hell for a 12.
Oh, because you had a Harley, so you couldn't really use it in rainy Vancouver all the time.
No. Okay, let's go into the next article here.
So this is from Deadline. James Gunn expects a new The Batman 2 script shortly. Still really important.
Yeah, and when I first read this, I didn't know too much about it, actually. I thought James Gunn was maybe the director, and things are looking more and more sketchy for Superman. Like, when it first came out, James Gunn's name was attached. There were high hopes for this property. Now that it's coming closer and closer to release and more things are kind of slipping out, people are really unsure. And if they would have attached his name as the director for Batman, and then he would have destroyed Batman and Superman, that would have been the real dynamic duo. But that being said, he's actually not the director for this, but he is overseeing the property, so he is going to have a lot of oversight when it comes to the making of this movie. Why don't we read a little bit of it?
So with a new screen DCU taking shape in Metropolis, Matt Reeves' Batman is still lurking around in the shadows of Gotham City. DC Studio co-CEO James Gunn recently assured fans that Robert Pattinson's iteration of The Dark Knight is still there, as writer-director Reeves nears completion on a new draft of the sequel to 2022's The Batman. What Matt's doing is really important, despite all stories to the contrary, Gunn told Entertainment Weekly. We're supposed to see the script shortly, and I can't wait.
Yeah, and I just don't know. Still, I just don't know about James Pattinson. So
Robert Pattinson.
Oh, sorry, Robert Pattinson. Batman. sometimes they had good casting. In general, it was about a 50-50 split because some of the casting, like Ben Affleck or Pattinson, not confident with. But the gentleman that was in American Psycho,
Christian Bale?
Christian Bale, yeah. Christian Bale's Batman was phenomenal. Him as an actor and the directing of that movie was phenomenal as well. It really is kind of what let me give superhero movies a second chance, which was my mistake because other than that, those couple of Batmans that they made, man, superhero movies have just gone downhill in general. I think as an IP, Superman is really going to be the telltale if these comic book superhero IPs are going to be able to survive with these $100 million budgets. I think in the future, they're going to want to go a smaller budget with superhero properties and things like this because it's getting really hard to recoup your money when you include the advertising budget along with the actual production budget. You're getting into $300, $400, $500 million movies, and you're having to make $1 billion to make those back.
Rav asks opinions on Pattinson's Batman.
I thought he was okay, but I don't think Pattinson really represents masculinity. And when it comes to a male superhero, that's what I really want. I kind of feel like Pattinson represents this feminization of masculinity, especially if you see a lot of his other movies, and it's hard to separate him from that, even when they're trying to over masculinize him in Batman. That's just my opinion, but I'd really like to see a masculine actor play these superhero roles.
Who would be a masculine actor?
Tom Hardy is really good. Now I've already recommended Tom Hardy for what was the movie I said the other day? Oh, the new 007. I thought Idris Elba would be great. I thought Tom Hardy would be great as the new 007. I think Idris Elba represents masculinity as well. Both of those people actually do combat sports. Tom Hardy does jiu-jitsu. Idris Elba does Muay Thai, and he actually has competed amateurly at fairly old age, so he's fairly believable. Actors like that, people that, like, when you just look at them, the roles they've played in the past have really built on this masculine caricature they have. Who they are in real life really represents masculinity as well. I've seen a lot of people talk about Tom Hardy going to his house, and they were like, wow, this guy's really masculine even in his day-to-day life. That being said, Tom Hardy wasn't always that. When he first came up in Hollywood, there was quite a few scandals of him. But since he's made it and he's been able to select his roles and really come into his own, I think he's really embodied masculinity fairly well.
And what about George Clooney as Batman?
No, George Clooney, before he went political with his TDS, yeah, he was actually okay. He represented an older, distinguished gentleman fairly well. He's gotten way too political, and he's starting to read the tea leaves, and he's trying to pull back. But again, it's in his nature, and it's not only in his nature. He's so connected to the Democratic Party within the United States. He has major influence over that party and the direction they go. So I think George Clooney is just killing his career the more and more he talks about politics. It's going to take a long time, I think, for audiences to forget, to kind of detach George Clooney from his political views, if ever.
But my question was from Batman and Robin in the 90s. Did you watch that?
Oh,
George
yeah.
Clooney as Batman?
I didn't really. I think George Clooney has always been kind of blah as an actor. He can fit any role, but he just does it averagely. He never really disappointed me, but he never really amazed me either.
I also didn't like Affleck. And Rafa says Robert Pattinson is too emo for him.
I completely agree.
I think
especially in Mickey 16, 13, what was it?
17.
Mickey 17. That's how much I care about Pattinson. We did a review on the movie, and I can't even remember the movie or Pattinson that much.
I mean, for me, he'll always be, not that I even like the Twilight Saga, but I did get to meet him once here at a premiere because a friend wanted to go. And for me, he will always be Edward Cullen.
And I think for a lot of people, because
shiny.
I did not like Twilight at all. I did watch it. I think it came on streaming, but I never disconnected Robert Pattinson from that role. And it was a fairly iconic role at the time. It really launched his career, but he's lucky it wasn't like a Luke Skywalker role because sometimes it's hard to detach the actor from the role. Overall, he seems to have used that as a launching pad, but myself, I've never disconnected him from that role.
But he hated that role. It's
Yeah.
his curse. Like he was miserable doing that. I think he just took it because he saw it as a launching pad. But now he'll always be a vampire that shines in the light.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's taken a series of roles that I think have hurt him. This Mickey 17 as well hurt him. It was a highly political movie, and especially with the modern climate, attaching that kind of political role to you as an actor, it's going to be hard, even though a lot of people didn't watch that movie. There's a general dislike, I think, of Robert Pattinson, and especially the way Hollywood keeps pushing him. And
I don't think they keep pushing him. I was just going to say, I think a lot of his indie roles are actually really good.
His
like
indie-
the one in The Lighthouse where they all go crazy. I think he was really good in that. And he's really good as a more indie, weird, brooding type.
And we said that about the other actress that was in Thunderbolts. I really do like her in her indie roles as
Florence
well.
Pugh?
Yeah, Florence Pugh. Okay, let's go on to the next story, and I believe it may be Superman.
Yes, so from the Hollywood Reporter, Superman final trailer shows David Cornsweet, I can never say his name, doing important stuff.
And like, this is Hollywood trying to be Hollywood, doing important stuff. Everything I've seen, he has seemed fairly unimportant, even when they're trying to make it dramatic and important. Supposedly, Superman spends most of this movie getting his ass kicked from the early reviews. I don't know, but we want to see Superman being a superhero. And I think with this political climate in the United States right now, they want to really try to push this anti-American rhetoric. So I don't know. This movie seems like it is starting to snowball into something where it may not do the box office people are thinking. And it's just supposed to really reset and launch the DC universe. And I don't know if it's going to actually do that.
And I think a lot of people that have watched the trailer, because I've watched reactions of the later trailers, there's new ones coming out, which is the one they're talking about here. Number one, they still don't really show anything. And number two, they are trying to, like in this image, like they put him saving a little girl. I think they're trying to harken back to the classic Superman while also keeping him modernized, which I don't think is going to work.
Well, also, yeah, they had so much backlash on those original sneak peek trailers that they had to come back with something, and the trailer they came back with was a lot better than the original one, but it's like they shoved every single action sequence in the movie into this 2-minute trailer, and it really takes away the importance when Superman actually does something important. Every action you take in the movie can't be of utter save the world importance. There has to be a variety. And like I said yesterday when we were talking about this movie, sometimes when you're writing scripts and it's the small things that can have the biggest impact in the character development. Okay. Do you want to read a little bit about that or no?
About
the
Superman?
Yeah, I want to see the propaganda they're trying to dish out, at least by the headline. That's what I'm going to assume is kind of in here.
Okay, so Warner Brothers released the latest trailer for the DC Studios movie that hits theater July 11th. Superman stars David Cornsweet as Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. The new film, I also don't like Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, but whatever. The new film focuses on the titular superhero who made his way to Earth from the planet Krypton and grapples
Okay,
with
go down in the article because we kind of know those plot points.
The trailer shows Superman being warned to stop messing around, to which the superhero replies, "I'm not messing around, I'm doing important stuff." The footage also shows a punch from Superman knocking out some teeth, which appears to hit the camera. Additionally, the trailer includes Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, telling Superman menacingly, "Make a move, Big Blue." Superman's release marks a pivotal and high-stakes moment for Warner Brothers. In addition,
well, if the character has to say, "I'm doing important things," and the article has to say, "Superman's doing important things," the odds are he's not doing important things. And this movie, I have a feeling, is not going to have the importance that the studio is kind of hoping. Okay, let's move on from there. And I think we have a little bit of sports news. I added 2 articles before we get back to pop culture there.
this is from The Spun. ESPN ripped for the Game 3 national anthem decision.
Yeah, and this is the NBA, and I don't think this was just ESPN. I think this was the NBA as well. The commissioner of the NBA is extremely woke, taking that sports property in the complete wrong direction, and it's the premier sports property for ESPN. So, man, ESPN is owned by Disney. It's going to be, they need to make a hard shift. Showing the national anthem on TV would have been the beginning of that shift. But again, because of the political climate, I think they don't want to make a message, but they're making a message by not actually showing the national anthem. And there is major backlash from fans. And this isn't the first time ESPN or Disney or the NBA has done this. And let's remember when the BLM protests were coming up, some of the first athletes outside of the NFL was the NBA, and the NBA players did it in mass.
Do you want me to read into it?
Yeah, let's read into it a little bit.
ESPN is taking heat on social media for its decision on the national anthem in Game 3 of the 2025 NBA Finals. The Indiana Pacers are hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 3 of the 2025 NBA Finals.
1 second. This is the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma. These are like Midwest cities in the middle of the country, traditional Americana. The people that were at the game didn't notice it, only the people that kind of watched it on TV. But you're going to have a big Midwest audience because both these teams are from the Midwest. So why would you take out the national anthem is beyond me. Let's keep going.
So prior to tip-off the string cheese incidents, Michael Kang performed the national anthem. However, those watching the game from home on ABC ESPN were not able
Hold on. Okay, they had Michael Kang singing the national anthem. I don't even know who he is, but maybe we should have I don't know.
What?
A non-Chinese person singing the national anthem. I'm just going to say it.
They might be American Chinese.
I don't know.
I'm guessing it's a big band. I don't know.
I've never seen a Chinese person sing the national anthem, and it would be great. Now, Whitney Houston, when she sung the national anthem, fantastic. Yeah, it's one of those iconic moments in American sports.
Also,
when she sung it at the Super Bowl.
But then Fergie, a white person, also butchered it.
Yeah,
completely.
she did butcher it.
ESPN did not air it. For me, with all the anthems, with the Mexican anthem, you're actually not allowed to change or to make riffs. And one young artist got ripped apart because she decided to do riffs like in the American anthem, and nobody liked it. This is not the first time that the national anthem wasn't shown before a broadcast. It happened earlier in the NBA Finals as well. Still, many fans are not happy. It's simple. Just do what NBC is doing when basketball returns this fall. Bring back player introductions, national anthem, iconic theme song, and put the trophy on the court for the finals. Make it feel important. One fan wrote, "The NBA doesn't show the national anthem. So lame. I wanted to see my boy Michael Kang sing." One fan added, why don't they show the national anthem before watching these NBA championship games? Another one added, show the national anthem and starting lineups. Give these games the big event treatment they deserve. Please show the national anthem and starters.
They need to lean into this, like Americana and history and things like this, and even Canadian history, because basketball was invented in Canada. So, just lean into the history of the NBA. They don't want to do that. They want this new social justice NBA. ESPN wants that as well, and so does Disney. That's why they signed the big contract, and they chose the NBA to be their premier sports IP for Disney and for ESPN.
Do you want to watch the thing?
Yeah, let's actually watch it. Maybe I was wrong, and I'm more than willing to say
South Korea, not China.
Oh, he's Korean. Okay. Maybe I'll say I'm wrong if I am. Let's hear it. And this was somebody at the game that filmed it, so it's not going to have the best audio.
Well, this is on their official page for that band.
Let's fast forward a little bit. Okay, we can stop it. No, I just don't think he can hit those high notes. I'm also just gonna say it again. Black people sing extremely well, and they can really hit those notes. They can hit the highs and the lows. At least when it comes to the national anthem, every time I've seen people sing it the best, it's always like a black female sings it phenomenally. Again, I'll go to Whitney Houston, but again and again, it's
Beyonce.
Yeah,
I don't like her, but
okay.
But I mean, Shouldn't the national anthem be able to be sung by everybody in the nation?
Well, if the national anthem
So
is
why make it
sung,
so difficult to be?
if the national anthem is sung well, people at the entire stadium will start to sing along. I lived in the States for a long time, and that's typically what happens.
Yeah, but what I mean is, for example, the Mexican national anthem is very monotone and pretty low, so everybody's able to sing it without really big incidents. With the U.S. one, there's so many high notes and low notes and etc. It becomes impossible for a normal person to sing it.
Yeah, well, it's not impossible people do sing along with the national anthem, but it isn't, when I compare the American national anthem to other national anthems, when you do put a singer in there that can sing it, man, it really can tug at the heartstrings.
The Mexican national anthem is the best.
I don't think
Yes,
so.
because
but-
it sounds like a war song. Even though we rarely
So do-
actually go to war.
So does the American one is based
No.
on the same thing.
No, that's it
okay.
sounds like a lullaby.
We'll agree to disagree on this one. You're crazy.
I'm not crazy.
You are
Mexicans,
crazy.
please back me up in the chat.
I've lived in Canada, the U.S., Mexico, and I've heard a lot of national anthems. Nothing compares to the American national anthem.
Because it's horrible.
No, it's not. Horrible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's go into the
The
next.
Canadian one is dumb, especially now that they removed both the words God and made it genderless.
Well, I didn't mind the Canadian national anthem. I thought it was actually fairly good overall as well. It doesn't compare to the American one, but since they started changing it, it's horrible now. Nobody wants to hear that. They're trying to virtue signal off their own national anthem.
But both the Canadian and the American both sound like boring lullabies.
No.
The Mexican one is like a call to arms. It's like do 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 do.
Okay. Sure.
There's at least more sounds in it.
Okay, let's go into the
I'm
next.
not a musician, clearly.
Let's go into the next.
Rafa says it's boring, to be honest. Which one, the Mexican or the American one? The Mexican one is
Mexican.
super long too.
That's what makes it boring.
We mostly just sing like one chunk at school. When you do the whole thing, when I was really young, I used to go to the national anthem singing competitions for my school. And you had to learn all of them, like all the words, and it's a lot to learn.
Well, does the EU have a national anthem?
Probably, I don't know.
I'm going to check into that, and we'll talk about it on tonight's political
Yeah,
show.
exactly, Rafa. Rafa says the Mexican anthem is really based, and if you know the words, it's really based.
Okay, let's go into the next article for the fourth
Essentially
time.
says we're going to give you our sons.
For the fourth time,
We're
let's
going
go
to
into
give our sons to protect.
Okay, let's go into the next article.
Rafa says, too bad we're not actually like that.
Okay,
Like our anthem.
Nat and Rafa, we're going to the next article.
I'm defending Mexico. Athlon Sports says USA Gymnastics considering major change amid Simone Biles' Riley Gaines feud. And we haven't really talked about this, but I did want to.
So, yeah, it's very interesting that USA Gymnastics is actually coming out on maybe the right side of this and going to implement the actual banning of males and female sports, which is good because USA Gymnastics specifically and just gymnastics in general, there's been quite a lot of scandals of coaches coaching athletes that were potentially minors and crazy things happening there. So they might not want to shine any more light on USA Gymnastics or gymnastics in general. So taking the right side of this and not allowing males and female sports is the right decision. Now they say potentially. That also being said, Trump came out with a statement and he's saying there will be no men competing in female sports in the Los Angeles Olympics. I believe it's Los Angeles Olympics. If transgender athletes are expected to come into the country to compete in the Olympics, their passports will not be approved. So,
did you say what happened or no?
No, go into it a little bit. I might have not misspoke, but just got right into it.
So Simone Biles' name is synonymous with USA Gymnastics, but after her very bitter and very public feud with Outkick host and former NCAA swimmer Riley Gaines over whether or not transgender athletes should be allowed to compete in women's sports, Biles, who's the most decorated gymnast of all time, has put the gymnastics community in the spotlight. Though Biles issued an apology to Gaines for her remarks, pretty late in the game, I might say.
And it was with a caveat as well in that statement. So
though Biles issued an apology to Gaines for her remarks and seemingly body-shaming her, which she did, fans on social media still haven't stopped discussing the issue in regard to gymnastics. According to Fox News' Jack Thompson, USA Gymnastics could be making some changes to its eligibility criteria in the wake of the Biles-Gaines debate. USA Gymnastics could be the next major American sports governing body to change its policies on allowing trans athletes to compete with women.
So, like, good on Simone Biles for saying this stuff, because now the USA Gymnastics is actually going to take action and hopefully take the right action. So the backlash on her comments, if it takes somebody saying some stupid things like Simone Biles here for these sports leagues to actually take action, I'm not.
So Thompson cited a statement from the organization that noted just last month it had begun the formal steps of implementing such a change. In May, USAG removed its policy to assess compliance with the current legal landscape, the association said in a statement. Thompson also pointed out that USAG's previous policy allowed transgender athletes who were biologically male to compete in the women's division, and that in 2020, the organization announced it would no longer require trans athletes to undergo SEX reassignment surgery, reassignment, legal gender recognition, and hormone therapy in order to compete in the gender category of their choosing, so they could be full-on men in leotards. USA Fencing has stated its intention to change its policy regarding gender eligibility, and USA Track and Field has changed its gender eligibility
the Olympics in general just have to have a broad across-the-board policy here. Men cannot compete in women's sports.
And should we show the tweeting war or no?
Yeah, if you have it there. If not, it's not necessary at all.
Because I think they're going to be in this other article. Hold on.
And Simone Biles was absolutely beloved back when people actually used to watch the Olympics. It's a shame where she's gone since then. But because Simone Biles was like the highlight of that particular Olympics. It's back when USA Basketball also had their dream team and stuff like this. So a lot of people did tune into the Olympics back then. She has been able to, even though she hasn't competed in a long, long time, really kept a certain high profile as a sports celebrity.
So apparently it all started when, this is from another article from the same source, so Athens Sports. The dispute began last week when Gaines, quote, tweeted a post by Minnesota State High School League X account celebrating Champlain Park, which won the 2025 Class Quadruple A State Softball Championship thanks to dominant performance from junior pitcher Marissa Rothenberg, a biological male who threw 5 straight games.
Okay,
and
let's continue to go. Let's just see what the tweets were.
So Riley Gaines initially said comments off law to be expected when your star player is a boy, which I agree with. And then Biles, just unprompted, replied to Gaines at Riley Gaines, "You are truly sick, all of this campaigning because you lost your race, straight up sore loser. You should be lifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or..."
Yeah, back when Biles used to compete, she didn't have to compete against men, so she doesn't care when other people do have to compete against men.
Mm-hmm. And then, or creating a new avenue where trans people feel safe in sports, maybe a transgender category in all sports, but you bully them. One thing's for sure, no one in sports is safe with you around. And
she got canceled for this, and the guy from Harry Potter is facing cancellation as well. So there is a huge backlash on social media when they're talking about these kind of sensitive subjects now.
But from both sides.
From both sides, yeah.
But the problem also, the biggest problem I have, other than her supporting men competing in women's sports, is that then she went on to say to Gaines, bully someone your own size, which would ironically be a male. And Riley Gaines is like not that tall and not that big. Well, she's tiny.
Okay, let's continue to go here.
That was it.
Oh, that was it. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next story here. And that's going to be... Oh, the next one after this is Harvey Weinstein. So the Harvey Weinstein verdict actually came in. But before we get into that, let's get into the House bill about PBS and NBC.
Oh, hold on then. So House set to vote on bill to rescind funding to PBS, NPR, and public broadcasting stations from deadline.
And I'm just kind of updating the story because they're finally going to vote on this. So after that vote comes in, and that I believe it's going to the House now, then it will go to the Senate, and we'll see if it does get approved. I really hope it does, because especially NPR has really become a propaganda outlet. And PBS as well, but not as much as NPR is just insane. And they actually are giving over $1 billion to these companies, similar amount to what Canada gives to the CBC, which is like $1.4 billion a year.
But PBS does children's content. That's also
Yeah, that's a big issue.
So, updated from Deadline, a bill to rescind $1.1 billion in funding from PBS, NPR, and public media stations is scheduled to come to the floor for a vote this afternoon. There are expectations that the legislation will pass after it cleared a procedural vote on Wednesday, 213 to 207. The clawback of public broadcasting funds is part of a White House-initiated rescissions package, which also includes billions of dollars in cuts to foreign aid programs, including medical care and AIDS prevention.
Yeah, and I'm gonna kind of even like. It's interesting. They're going to save billions of dollars on this. If they would redistribute that money later on into online content creators and things like that, that would fund a lot of different creators in a lot of different aspects. They could probably do a lot more money by kind of redistributing it so they could reach a much younger audience and things like this. I just think NPR specifically is very politically motivated, and PBS, it's kind of dated. So.
And it would be fine if NPR was not publicly funded and they wanted to spout off whatever they wanted to say.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know for a long time. I didn't know NPR was publicly funded. I actually listened to NPR a lot. I listen to their online content. I listen to their radio content. They're a good source of liberal talking points and really progressive talking points, where the progressive bubble is kind of at. Kind of just like what I guess you would say Steve Bannon's The War Room on the other side is. So I listen to a lot of media, whether it's hard left, hard right, or moderate. NPR is very far left. So they also do claim to be moderate, but they are far from it.
Mm-hmm. And again, yes, free speech in media and journalism, but if it's being sponsored or essentially is an arm of the government, it should be neutral.
Yeah.
Or give both sides, which they don't.
Oh, definitely.
That was the main issue.
And I was surprised on this next headline. It just popped up today. And I was kind of waiting for this headline, just like I'm kind of waiting for the Diddy headline of when the actual trial results come in. Well, why don't we read a little bit about this?
So Harvey Weinstein found, this is from Variety, Harvey Weinstein found guilty of SA after tensions explode on New York jury.
And we have to realize this is coming from Variety. This retrial was actually done in New York as well. A lot of evidence had come out since this trial. A lot of sleuth reporters like Candace Owens had done major in-depth dives. She doesn't like Harvey Weinstein, but after she did her full-throated investigation, it was kind of like...
a strange choice of words.
Well, her investigation, I came out on the side of, well, maybe he's not as guilty as I originally suspected. And this kind of seemed like a hit job from the Me Too movement overall, with the 60 allegations all coming at once, dogpiling on. The Me Too movement changed their strategy after this case because people started kind of suspecting that this was a hit job when you have 60 allegations all at once. When they did Johnny Depp, they tried to do 2 or 3 at once, so it wasn't so obvious.
But this was the instrumental case for the Me Too.
Oh yeah, this was the first one. And also, because the retrial was in New York, I don't think he was going to get an honest shot at a retrial. But let's read a little bit into it because I'm pretty interested. I haven't read the article yet. I just seen the headline.
So Harvey Weinstein was convicted on one count of committing a criminal disgusting act, but acquitted on another during his disgusting crimes retrial in New York City on Wednesday. The majority female jury found the former Hollywood producer guilty of SAing Miriam Haley, but acquitted him of a second charge of SAing Kaja Sokola. The jury could not reach a unanimous verdict on a third count involving Jessica Mann, which is the one that lied the most, and was told to resume deliberations on Thursday morning. That's my opinion. The partial verdict comes after a weeks-long trial that began in April, during which 3 women testified about the alleged SAs committed by the former Hollywood mogul. Weinstein faced 2 counts of committing a criminal disgusting act in the first degree and 1 count of third-count degree rapes. Prior to the mixed verdict, Weinstein himself addressed the court, urging the judge to declare a mistrial, as several jurors reported ongoing tensions in the deliberation room. "This is my life that's on the line," Weinstein told Judge Curtis Farber, adding, "I am not getting a fair trial." Weinstein then told the judge, "You're endangering me, Your Honor." Earlier on Wednesday, the jury foreperson in Weinstein's retrial informed the judge that tensions had remained high during deliberations and requested a private meeting with the judge and attorneys to discuss the situation.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like and we know this had been a strategy of activist jurors trying to get on these juries. And there's been a lot of YouTube video and independent content created telling activists how to specifically get on juries and how to answer questions and things like this. And with tensions this high, at least what's kind of being reported, it sounds like they were trying to bully the other jurors into this rather than having a calm, cool deliberation. It sounds to me like there may have been an activist juror in there.
Well, and it was a highly female one.
Well, and it was in New York. So these activist juries are primarily emerging in LA and New York. So
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now we have to wait for the actual resentencing, I think. So that's gonna be very interesting to see because I think he was over sentenced as well on the first trial. So
I read another headline as I was looking for other stuff. Let me just double check it, but keep talking about it.
okay, what was this other headline you think?
Yeah, this is from an hour ago. But it's murky as to...
Oh, which
me see if I
judge
can-
declares mistrial?
I know. So let me...
Well, so let's just bring this article up for
that's what I'm trying to do.
because this is ABC News, so this should be a fairly credible source, even though
That's why I'm saying keep talking. So.
I don't always agree with ABC News. So the headline reads, oh, I can't see it.
Yeah, I know, because I have to... that's why I say keep talking. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
This is from an hour ago. Go away.
So this is a newer article than the first article.
Yeah, so from ABC News, judge declares mistrial on grape count in Harvey Weinstein's disgusting crimes retrial after jury chaos. The jury foreman refused to return to deliberate. Because as we read, they were going back this morning, so I'm guessing. A New York judge has declared a mistrial on the third-degree grape count in Harvey Weinstein's disgusting crimes retrial on Thursday after the jury foreman refused to return to deliberate. The foreman had told Judge Curtis Farber on Wednesday that he was afraid to be in the same room with fellow jurors after he claimed they yelled at him to try to change his mind. Asked if he would be willing to go back to the deliberation room Thursday, the foreman said no, I'm sorry. Farber then dismissed the remaining jurors. The former movie mogul was accused of... The mistrial comes a day after the jury convicted him on one count of criminal disgusting act involving...
Okay, so that looks like that one count is going to stick.
Mm-hmm.
So
And acquitted him of another count. The third count related to an alleged assault on aspiring actress Jessica Mann. All three women have publicly come forward and testified during the trial. Farber said, so the judge said he spoke to the remaining jurors who told him they were disappointed they did not get to render a verdict on the third count. I will say they were extremely disappointed that deliberations ended before they reached a verdict.
that sounds like an activist jury.
Yeah.
Because most juries, if this were to happen and they couldn't come to, they're just happy to go home. Because you get paid very little to be on a jury.
Mm-hmm.
So
And the foreman was a he, and he said that they yelled at him. So and we had read in the previous article that it was mostly women. So
yeah.
it sounds very,
And it sounds like maybe they were able to really turn up the heat on this guy, get the conviction for the second charge. And then when it came to the third charge, since it worked on the second charge, they started really going over the top and yelling at him. And then he's like, no more. I already compromised on the second charge probably. Okay. Well, if you do want to see a lot more about what actually happened with Harvey Weinstein and the actual evidence, I highly do recommend Candace Owens' kind of documentary series she did live with on her show.
And she interviewed Harvey from, he was in jail.
Yeah.
And she interviewed him for about quite a few hours.
Okay, let's go into Nintendo now.
So Nintendo says sales of new Switch 2 unit hit record within 4 days.
Well, yeah, and they originally said within 1 day, and now it's coming out 4 days. I'm surprised they were able to hit these records because the tariff concerns that first came out, they were having trouble getting these units into the U.S. and things like this without a major tariff tax added on. So I'm against a lot of the things they did with this new Nintendo Switch. They're able to brick the system with the games. They're not actually giving any game cartridges. You're basically getting a barcode in a box for an inflated price. You might as well just download the game offline or online at that point. Nintendo is just, they know their audience. It's a child audience. Parents are going to buy this for their kids. So they know they're going to be able to sell these units, but I'm really disappointed in a lot of the things Nintendo has done with this new Nintendo Switch. I also don't think it's much of an upgrade from the first one. It is going to sell just because this is targeted towards mainly kids, and parents will just buy something, especially Nintendo has, as a whole, is viewed by parents as a safe brand where they can just buy it for their kids and kind of give it to them and not monitor them. Mostly. That's how parents view it. That being said, Disney used to have that kind of view through parents as well. I don't think Disney any longer has that and hasn't had it for a long time. Okay, let's go into the last article of the day here, and then we'll talk a very tiny bit of production.
So this is from the AP. Brazil's Supreme Court justices agreed to make social media companies liable for user content.
So this is going to be complete censorship in social media now. I think I would expect a lot of social media companies to pull out of Brazil. Brazil has been doing a lot of shenanigans when it came to X and other social media companies, trying to sue them for things other users are putting on the platform. They're not headed in the right directions. Again, this is an example of the people and the elites of the government really shifting in two different directions. This is happening on different issues all around the world, whether it's LGBTQ or immigration issues in the EU and other Western nations. The elites are taking very hard stances in one direction, while the citizens, they want free speech, they want open social media, but the government is trying to deem it dangerous.
Mm-hmm. So the majority of justices on Brazil's Supreme Court have agreed to make social media companies liable for illegal postings by their users in a landmark case for Latin America with implications for U.S. relations. Brazil's top court decided to rule on two different cases to reach an understanding on how to deal with social media companies as reports of fraud, child disgustingness, and violence among teenagers became rampant online. Critics warn such measures could threaten free speech as platforms preemptively remove content.
Yeah, and they always use children as the excuse to take your freedoms. So that's why I'm always very cautious, even though I agree with a lot of things people say when it comes to CP and stuff like that. I don't agree with stripping freedoms of the general public. I always take freedoms over safety, at least for the most part.
Critics warn Guilherme Mendes on Wednesday became the sixth of the court's 11 justices to vote to open a path for companies like Meta, X, and Microsoft to be sued and pay fines for content published by their users. Voting is ongoing, but a simple majority is all that is needed for the measure to pass. The ruling will come after U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned of possible visa restrictions against foreign officials allegedly involved in censoring American citizens. One such official reportedly is Brazilian Justice Alexandre de Moraes, who has taken measures against social media outlets he deemed to not have complied with Brazilian law.
Yeah, and this is the elites taking action through the judicial system rather than them putting it to the vote with the people. The people do not want this. This is going to severely hurt Brazil. We also do politics at 9:15 Central, so I do have a lot of insight on this. I'll actually bring it in kind of right now. And Brazil as a country is going more and more towards the BRICS nations and things like this, with the way they're treating social media and other things. With the emergence of Donald Trump in the US, they are really starting to put pressure on other countries for free speech and things like this. This is why I'm somewhat hopeful for Mexico. In this article we just read, they said this could have impacts amongst other Latin American countries and things like this. With Mexico being so close to the U.S., if they were to bring censorship into their social media, I think the United States, there would be major backlash economically and otherwise. This is why I'm somewhat hopeful that freedom through chaos will remain in Mexico and in social media in Mexico.
Because in Mexico, they also have plans, also through security and safety measures, to censor social media. They've actually tabled it. They've
tabled it, and they're doing it in Canada as well. The EU has already passed these. Brazil is passing these. But the fact that now the U.S. is starting to apply pressure on certain countries to maintain free speech and traditional Western values, which free speech is one of those core values, I'm hoping Mexico remains a free speech country, which there's less and less countries every day really maintaining free speech. they
even
want
valuing it.
or
They're scared of
yeah,
it,
or even valuing
which
it.
is the intent of free speech.
Yeah. And okay, well, maybe I'll save that for the political channel, the rest of my analysis. Okay, let's go into a little bit of production talk. And I'm going to talk about something today that I actually don't recommend in general. And that is gimbals. In general, I don't really like gimbals. This right here is a phone gimbal. So
The DJI Zen something.
yeah, the DJI. So you can put it on here. You can hold it. It's nice because it does have a stick. I actually find the stick itself is much more helpful than the gimbal. But even on our bigger cameras, I have a big gimbal because when we first started getting into...
You have no image.
Oh, no image.
No.
Do I have sound?
Yes.
So I do have sound. Okay.
You want me to check that?
One moment. Click on the video cap.
No, if it's the camera itself.
There's no battery. Okay, well, that's going to be it for today's show.
Oh, we can do a voice podcast.
Okay, well, that's going to be it for today's show. My battery went out on my camera. So thank you for tuning in. We have every day at 12 Central, I do a pop culture show at 9:15 Central. Me and Nat have our main show, which focuses mainly on politics. And just before that show at 8 Central, Nat has an all Spanish show on our other channel called Nat and the Guy Espanol. So if you are a Spanish speaker, please become a subscriber over there as well.
And I hope we made Rafa smile with this latest tech issue. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tonight.
Adios.
And Rafa says, welcome to Nat and the Guy's bloopers section. Exactly. Have a good day.